The UNHCR, that's the United Nations Refugee Agency, has welcomed the signing of the application decree of the asylum law in Chad by the country's government. That follows the adoption of the law on asylum in Chad in December 2020, and that was a result of the country's commitments made during a Global Refugee Forum in December 2019. Let's get you a bit more insight into exactly how this is going to work out with the Deputy Representative of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Chad. Patrice, thank you very much for your time this evening. So let's start with the significance here. What's the significance of the progress in Chad actually implementing this asylum law?
Thank you very much, Richard, for having me. Allow me, first of all, to thank the government of Chad in taking this decree implementing the asylum law that has been adopted in December 2020. We can dare calling this set of law or set of legal instrument as progressive. Progressive because it reinforces protection and also opportunities for solution for refugees and asylum seekers. But let me stress or emphasize on a few specificities that the decree and the law brings, to the refugee protection in Chad. For instance, the issues related to access to employment for refugees, issue related to land acquisition and to naturalization of refugees have been dealt with, and access to credit, to microcredit, to subsidies, as well as access to financial institutions, it has been erected in that set of law.
So just to be clear, are we to understand that before this law was passed, if you're a refugee, say for example like those who had been displaced from the violence in Sudan, that you'd basically have no access to the job market, you'd not be able to invest, you'd not be able to work legally in Chad before the passage of this law?
Before the passage of this law, it was not possible, to have access to employment. And one of the specificities also that comes to reinforce the access to employment is, for instance, the refugee ID, which henceforth will be issued by the state institution. And we are in a context where the refugee's ID for the Chadian government is seen also as a residence permit, which is very an originality, a specificity that the law brings. So that is why I was saying that the law, as well as its implementing decree, is very progressive. Progressive in a way that today, when we look at the protection framework, the collective recognition of refugees, for instance, the influx that we are having from Sudan, refugees can be recognized on a collective basis.
And that actually brings me to my next question, because we've seen tens of thousands of people coming across the border seeking asylum in Chad. Does this law make your work a lot easier as UNHCR? Because now at least you're operating within a certain specific legal framework that makes it a lot easier for these individuals perhaps to integrate with the host community across the border in Chad.
I would say that this law reaffirms, and its decree, of course, reaffirms some key protection principles. The first one in this influx context is the principle of non-refoulement, which in the international human rights law, it gives an obligation to the state to welcome anyone who is fleeing violence and who is fleeing persecution. So this law reaffirms this principle. We also have the access to territory and access to asylum, which have been reaffirmed also in this law and is already being implemented within the framework of this influx. Last but not least is the access to all the protection services and also the commitment through this law to create opportunities for refugees from onset of the emergency. What I can tell you on this one is the way the camp, for instance, will be set up. When we look at the provision of this law, the camps, the refugee camps or the refugee settlement will be set up in a way that it creates opportunity for refugees for local integration in Chad. Once again, it's very we need to congratulate Chad in passing this law and also taking the decree in a context, as you know, where we have an influx in a context also of political transition.
Indeed.
So kudos to the government in Chad in taking this important step. That UNHCR welcome.
We'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Patrice. Much appreciated. He was joining us, of course, from the Chadian capital of N'Djamena. That is Patrice Ahwantu. He's the Deputy Representative of UNHCR